Coming up on today's show.
So it has to do with different ways that your brain processes information. And as a brain-based condition, there's many ways that we choose to use time and paper and space in different manners. So
what are some of the tools and tricks that you can use to help someone with ADHD get more productive?
Don't be ashamed of using a paper planner, because most of the resources we have that are paper planners are really very effective. It's just that everybody feels they ought to be taking their calendar to their phone because their phone is with them all the time.
Get more done with ADHD today on Keeping You Organized. Hello, welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we're going to talk about getting more done, productivity that is, but for those who have ADHD, it's a little more challenging, but there is hope, I should say, and there are ways that you can deal with this, and we're going to bring on one of the best experts on ADHD productivity, Ellen DeLapp, professional-organizer.com. Ellen, welcome to Keeping You Organized.
Well, thank you, John. I'm so glad to be here with you, and thank you as always for sharing so much information via the My Organized Life podcast. Mm-hmm. It's a great resource.
Well, good. And we've had you on many times, and we've talked about ADHD before, and this is I know it's one of your specialties. That's why we like to have you on to talk about this, but let's, for the purpose of this particular show, give our definition, because I know there's a lot of talk about what ADHD is and what it isn't. For the purpose of this program, let's put some definitions around it.
So ADHD is a brain-based condition that affects about 10% of the population, both individuals in any age range, any socioeconomic status, young, old. So it has to do with different ways that your brain processes information. And as a brain-based condition, there's many ways that we choose to use time and paper and space in different manners. So we're just talking about what helps the most in your productivity when you are with ADHD.
Okay. Well, I know a lot of in productivity and time management, we always talk about getting either distracted or getting taken off track. Why don't we start there with someone that has ADHD? Getting off track must almost come naturally, right?
Right. So many times there's so many different ways people are distracted. A lot of times it's the internal distractions of ADHD, all the things that are going on in your brain at the same time. It's also external distractions, things that all of us deal with really, but people with ADHD might be a little bit more sensitive to, like the distractions of social media or just time allotment, thinking about how much time something takes and how much time it will take for them to accomplish a task. And just generally feeling very overwhelmed and paralyzed as a result, having a feeling that you can't accomplish what you set out to do. A goal might be too big, or even a task might be too big. So sometimes it's in the planning phases and the execution of not only organizing, but getting stuff done.
Okay, all right. So I want to kind of start there because I think, I think even someone without ADHD may have some takeaways from here. So let's talk about maybe some of the tools that you would use. How do you address this? Because when you sit down with someone for the first time, you're probably assessing that this is a big part of what they're challenged with. So what are some of the tools and tricks that you can use to help someone with ADHD get more productive?
Well, I always talk about these trusted tools, regardless of whether you have ADHD or not, because one of the goals is to get things out of your head. Because in your head, everything seems equally important, and there's no time relationships. Things are all equally at the same time. It's either now or not now. So a trusted tool I refer to is your planner, whether it's digital or paper. A trusted tool is also a task list, and that's where we're writing all the things we want to get done and the projects that we want to get done. So we delve into what is a trusted tool for that person. And sometimes we even create what I call a hybrid. It's a combination of their paper planner and something digital on their phone or another device. So just delving into that first so we can really create that trusted tool for them.
So let's talk on that a second, because there's all kinds of different opinions, and it sounds like from what I'm hearing from you that there isn't one right solution for one person versus the other. It's kind of what works for them. But what are some of the challenges, let's say, with someone who uses a paper planner? And then let's talk about some of the challenges of someone who uses a digital planner, and maybe why they would use the other because of those challenges.
Well, the first thing I tell people is don't be ashamed of using a paper planner,
Yeah.
because most of the resources we have that are paper planners are really very effective. It's just that everybody feels they ought to be taking their calendar to their phone because their phone is with them all the time. The great thing about a paper planner is if you're highly visual and you want to be writing things down, like if you're a tactile person, you like to write. And so that's the real success of using a paper planner. A digital planner is usually for people who want to capture information but don't rely so heavily on visual. And also, they're much more native. Like it's very easy for them to capture information on a digital tool, like the typing. So there's that distinction, as well as they're both used in the same way. You capture dates and information there, and also you add your tasks at a certain date and time that you want to accomplish them. So the routine is very similar regardless of the tool you use, which is what I try to also share with people. Your planner is not just for recording dates, it's also for recording the tasks you want to accomplish on by a certain timeline.
Right. So what do you use, Ellen, just out of curiosity? Are you paper or digital or hybrid?
I'm like that hybrid plan. So a lot of times I use a tool called the Planner Pad that I
Yes.
love because it has a place to put notes at the top. And I'm very much of a writer. I'm highly visual, so the paper planner works well for me. But then at the same time, I have a lot of meetings as NABO president, and so I record them in my devices, and I often have invitations that come through Outlook, so they're reminders of those meetings that happen throughout the day. So I've crafted a hybrid for myself, but I do know that I'm highly visual, so I do rely on my paper planner primarily.
So do you have like your Outlook on both your phone and your computer, your like your desktop or your iPad or whatever? Do you kind of have it in both places too?
Yes.
Okay.
So I use both my iPad and my iPhone, all three actually, and my computer. I always carry my earbuds with me because I'm constantly using that for information. And then I use one app more than others called Notes. It looks like a little Post-it note,
Yep.
but it's not a reminder app for me. It's more like a list of, like I have a list of consignment in there, or I have a list of apps that I use frequently. So I primarily use my iPad and my phone for those kind of
Great.
trusted sources too.
Awesome. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about maybe the desk setup, because I'm sure, you know, ADHD, it's one of those things where your environment is really key. So we're talking about getting more done with ADHD, a productivity-based kind of plan with Ellen DeLapp, and we'll be right back. Get organized now at myorganize.life. Need to turn those piles into files? We've got you covered. Hundreds of organizing products in a dazzling array of colors and sizes. There's an organizing solution for you. Shop online and they're delivered right to your office. Get organized now. Go to myorganize.life. That's myorganize.life. Get organized now at myorganize.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about getting more done with ADHD from a productivity perspective. And you know, these tips and things we're talking about today can be used whether you're ADHD or not, but particularly our expert is Ellen DeLapp, professional-organizer.com. And Ellen, before the break, we talked about some tools, you know, the planner, the calendar, those kinds of things. But how about that desk environment? You know, getting your workspace set up if you're someone who is challenged with ADHD.
So we all know how important wherever we work is. And of course, no matter whether we're ADHD or not, we want to minimize distractions and things that are out that are clutter in our office environment. But we especially want to do what we call just keeping things out that are used on a daily basis. Many people have really gone to a paperless environment, so there's not much that you need out on your desk, including papers. So what I encourage people to do is set up a little sorting system that cultivates what they need on a daily basis out and just minimize those things. A lot of times the environment also has to do with um, a level of noise. Some people have like to have music in the background. Some people like to change environments, so that's why people go to local coffee shops to work, so they take their traveling devices with them. So I'd be just thinking about what works best for you, like what environment is going to cultivate your productivity in terms of having as little out, and then in the space, what that feels like. A lot of people also use the resources of the vertical walls around them
Mhm.
as ways to capture information. So that can be an important resource to you to have space like whiteboards, dry erase, things like that. So setting up what's successful for the individual. Again, it comes back to your strengths and the way you take in information.
Do you think that people who have like, let's say, a clean desk minimalist, do you kind of encourage them to work on one thing at a time and then you won't have the distractions because you can't see a bunch of other stuff?
Exactly. Yes. Just having one thing out at a time, because single tasking is one of the most discussed topics right now because how much we get done by being single taskers. So, yes, only take one thing out at a time because that's all you can work on really at one time.
Are there any resources that can help you with some of that? Your desk environment, your physical space, things that you um, might recommend?
So, in terms of books, I love a book called ADD Friendly Ways to Organize, and it has a whole section on how to organize your work environment. So, it talks about how to minimize things, how to keep things in arm's reach. And a lot of times it's just knowing what you need at the time so that it's easy, makes it easy to work. And that's, clearing away the clutter makes it easy to work.
Okay. And how about like, is there a certain kind of, let's say, desk setup? Maybe, let's say, do you encourage people to keep a stapler and scissors and things like that, maybe in a box or in a drawer? I mean, how clear do you think someone who's got ADHD needs to have it so they just aren't overstimulated visually?
Well, I think the less is more concept definitely applies. And depending on your desk, I do suggest people having desk drawers as a result. A lot of times people have just a tabletop to work on. In that case, I would definitely suggest a box to keep the tools in. But if you're infrequently using even staplers, paper clips, or scissors, then just keep them in the top right hand drawer where you know where they are when you want them. And then use organizers within the drawers as well, because we don't want to open the drawer and it looks like the junk drawer in our kitchen, do we?
Yeah.
So sometimes we just create slots for different types of things, binder clips, erasers, pens, and pencils. I think the biggest thing I see is the overabundance of writing tools, like
Mm-hmm.
a million different pens, pencils. So cull down what sits on top of your desk. And if you're taking a paper task list, which many of my clients love a paper task list still, and I suggest having that in one spiral, just have one or two writing utensils out. You don't really need a variety. Choose your favorite and then just keep that one out.
Right. How about like these open spaces where you maybe have a team of people that are all in one big open space? You might have your little cube with a couple of, how do you work in that team environment?
Well, a lot of times people like to use headphones as a result so that they can minimize noise. Also, I've suggested to people, even if you have a cubicle, to put up I don't call it do not disturb, but come back later kind of note,
Okay.
so that at the entrance that people know that it's a time you're working on a high priority and creative, possibly important, definitely important project. So if you carve out what I call a power period time in your day, often your team members appreciate that, and it's also modeling to them that they can do that same thing to get more done.
Awesome. Well, Ellen, I can already tell right now we've hardly scratched the surface on what we really want to talk about. And I think what I'd like to do is take and bring you back next time to wrap up this conversation. But before we go, can you tell people what kind of services you offer and how people get a hold of you?
Well, thanks, John. My business is professional-organizer.com. I'm based in Houston, Texas, and I work virtually and locally with clients that have ADHD on all sorts of projects, ranging from clearing clutter in their home to time management to being more productive. So I love working with my clients because they're brilliant, resourceful people that just need that little extra step to find what's going to work best for them.
Great. All right. Professional-organizer.com. Ellen, thanks again, and we'll have you back next time.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, there you have it. You've got the first part of this recipe if you've got ADHD on getting more done. And come back next time for the second piece of this great show, next time on Keeping You Organized.